Turning a sports car into a pile of crushed metal might be our worst nightmare, but car companies spend tons each year to safely destroy million-dollar models. Usually, manufacturers are allowed to test their own supercars because of how incredibly expensive it can be to crash million-dollar car after million-dollar car. They've come up with their own ways to make the process as effective as possible, like buying $125,000 crash test dummies and funneling millions into high-tech simulation software. But that doesn't make watching a Lambo crash any easier. Here are some of the most expensive crash tests in the world. Bugatti Veyron. Conducting a single car crash test can cost more than $100,000, but that price gets a lot higher when the car you're crashing is a $1 million supercar, like the $2 million Bugatti Veyron. Between 2002 and 2005, Bugatti performed a number of independent crash tests on Veyron prototypes. These prototypes even had their engines intact and all luxury Bugatti amenities still on board. Photos of the crash test only recently surfaced on the internet, and they featured some seriously crushing damage to the entire front of the multi-million-dollar vehicle. The tests performed on these Veyrons included rollover tests, bumper tests, impact tests on every possible angle, and car-to-car collisions. That's a lot of Bugattis to crash, but thankfully most manufacturers who don't produce a lot of each model per year tend to use fewer prototypes, and also to repair these prototypes between tests so they can be reused. This easily saves them millions of dollars worth of destroyed cars every year. Lamborghini Murcielago. Most crash tests are performed at about 35 miles per hour with the car hooked up to an electric motor that tows the vehicle towards impact. That doesn't seem like too much speed, but it can do some serious damage, like it did to this Lamborghini Murcielago. This Lambo, which cost between $350,000 and $450,000 depending on the model, was sacrificed in a head-on collision test to see how effective its crumple zones were. The crumple zones are areas of the car that are supposed to get damaged on impact because they protect the more vital parts of the car, including the passengers. So really, all of this smashed Lamborghini is a blessing, because it means the front of the car is just doing its job. And speaking of passengers, even the test dummies they put in the car cost the company a ton of money. Dummies cost a minimum of $25,000 each, but now there are wireless dummies that are better suited for certain things, like rollover tests that have improved data collection technology. These can cost as much as $125,000 each. Ferrari, California. Car manufacturers actually aren't required to undergo independent crash testing, which is why cars over $100,000 are tested much less often. Government agencies would have to actually go to dealerships and buy the supercars for full price if they wanted to test them, because the companies aren't obligated to just hand over models of their most expensive vehicles. Ferrari is one example of a company we rarely see crashing its cars on purpose, but they have tested some of their best models like the 488 and also the Ferrari California, which at the time of testing would have cost $200,000. It's a pretty painful image, I know, but you'll probably be thankful to know that Ferrari makes such a low volume of cars, only around 10,000 a year in 2019, that they like to spend their testing budget on simulations and virtual crash tests. The Ferrari California was a necessary victim to demonstrate the car's safety, but most other Ferraris will be crashed on a computer. Porsche Taycan. When a test goes really well, the company needs to conduct fewer retests and they save tons of money and cars. Porsche was especially happy when the Taycan passed its safety test with flying colors. The $100,000 model was used instead of the more expensive $180,000 Turbo S, but the crash is still pretty hard to watch. The side pull test is one of the most challenging for a car to pass, but the Taycan does an amazing job at holding up under pressure. Just look at how well the supports stay intact. It does just as well when the other side pull is traded for an entire barrier. These expensive test dummies inside also demonstrate how stable the cabin is, which is very important because necks, backs, and heads can be severely injured upon impact. Even if you walked out of a crash like that, you'd probably be looking at more than $15,000 in hospital bills in the US. This is exactly why these supercar companies are willing to throw their biggest moneymakers into harm's way. Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. The Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG is another car that puts safety first and passed its tests with flying colors. Though the long hood gets seriously deformed during its impact test, it functions as a perfect crumple zone and absorbs all the energy from the crash to protect the passengers. It does its job so well that the windshield actually remains intact. The car can cost $200,000 to $500,000 depending on which model you buy, but if you have the money, at least you can drive around knowing you're well protected. Another thing the test proves is that the emergency function of the gull-wing doors work like a dream. After surviving a 2-foot drop onto its roof, the car's doors still pop open when the emergency function is triggered and can be easily removed for a quick escape. Koenigsegg Regera. When a car's price passes the $1 million mark, manufacturers have it in their best interest to test safety features in the most efficient ways possible, while doing the least damage to their property and production timeline. Koenigsegg is one company that values safety but doesn't want to throw their $1 million cars against a wall. And can you really blame them when their cars look like this? Instead, they came up with a repair system that they used when testing this $2 million Regera. Since they only produce a few thousand cars per year, the company assembles their prototype with a very sturdy and almost indestructible carbon fiber structure. The frame and exterior may get destroyed, but they can just repair the broken pieces and use the same chassis on the next test. This doesn't make it easy though, even if they save millions. It takes 3 months to prepare a car for a test, and they still have to crash the car from every angle and direction possible. They also take the car out of the track to test how it deals with potholes, huge bumps and ruts, and even a stack of tires that got in the way. One of the most important things to test are the smart airbags, which can tell the angle of the crash, size of the passenger, and whether or not they were wearing a seatbelt. They often use hammers to bang on the car and make sure the airbags won't accidentally deploy for minor impacts. McLaren F1. Even while putting safety first, it's hard to imagine a record-breaking multi-million-dollar vehicle being subjected to any serious crash testing. The record for the McLaren F1 sold at a public auction goes to chassis number 44, one of 7 US legal F1s that sold for $15.62 million at the 2017 Bonham's Quail Lodge auction. But something just as impressive as the F1's price is the 4.5 out of 5 star safety rating it earned by being carefully destroyed. While the manufacturer didn't have to subject the supercar to tests, it was a good thing they did, considering the car can reach a top speed of 234 miles per hour, or 376 kilometers. Considering the average vehicle prototype for a supercar costs $250,000, the multi-million-dollar McLaren far outmatches its peers for the title of most expensive supercar ever purposely slammed against a wall. Let us know in the comments down below if you think wrecking the McLaren F1 was totally worth it in the name of safety. Pagani Huayra. There are an average of 6 different crash tests performed per car. The prototype has to be in good shape to start each new test, or else the results won't be accurate. With the Pagani Huayra, a $2.6 million supercar, the testing showed off the carbon titanium composite that protects the car from being destroyed upon impact. The composite, a combination of carbon fiber and titanium, is lightweight but still allows the passenger compartment to withstand impacts that would otherwise shatter the standard carbon fiber part. That means they don't just destroy a Huayra, they drove it into a barrier even faster than normal just to prove how strong its composite was. It's a good thing it worked, or else it would have been back to the drawing board and say goodbye to another multi-million-dollar prototype. Tesla Model S. The Tesla Model S is a relatively cheaper car compared to some supercars that would have been crash tested, but that works out well for Tesla, since they've had to redo their crash test with the Model S because it ran into a few problems. The $80,000 car was tested for everything from front impact to side impact, and even being crushed from above. The main problem with the performance of the Model S was that the safety belt let the dummy's torso move too far forward, allowing the dummy's head to strike the steering wheel hard through the airbag. The lifetime cost of a patient's treatment for a traumatic brain injury in the US are estimated to be anywhere from $85,000 to $3 million. Sacrificing a few $80,000 Model S's to make sure that doesn't happen to a Tesla driver seems like a good choice to us. Ford Mustang GT. Some companies, like Ford, do 100 virtual tests for every physical one. And while they don't disclose a cost, every batch of virtual tests can end up costing thousands of dollars, especially when you factor in the price of such advanced software. But it's still cheaper than crashing an entire car 100 different times. The Ford Mustang GT tested here is a $35,000 V8. Running the virtual tests before slamming the Mustang into a wall helps Ford realize which parts of the car are weak or not up to standard, so they can fix them before they actually crash test the vehicle. This leads to less physical crash tests and usually a higher safety rating. But these expensive tests feel especially costly when the results aren't as good as the manufacturer wants them to be. And not even 100 simulations can make the tests go completely smooth. You see, in 2017, the Mustang GT got a 5-star rating in the US, but only a 2-star rating in Europe, proving that safety standards in different countries are surprisingly varied. So which of these crash test videos hurt the most to watch? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit the like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to The Richest for more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.